up today with Red Wings Director of Amateur Scouting, Kris Draper. If you have a question for Kris, please let us know in the chat. We'll start off with Helene St. James, Detroit Free Press.
Kris, I know you have connections with some of the players. I think Savage said he played against you or played against your team when you were coaching Little Caesars, and Masur played for you. When you have that kind of in with players, how does that affect in interviews and just the whole preparation process?
Obviously, well, with Carter, I can start with Carter. I met the Mazur family when, he was 10 years old. He's an 02. He grew up playing, Little Caesars all the way through from basically from 10 years old till his U16 year. It's been a lot of fun, and obviously, obviously proud to watch Carter develop into the player he was. Last year he went into, his first year in Tri-City, and it's a big jump. He was at the time he was maybe 5'9.5", 5'10". He's growing 2 to 3 inches. He's put on about 20 pounds. He knows he needs to still get bigger and stronger. But the interesting thing for me was going back out and watching Tri-City and just seeing the improvement in Carter from his underage year to this year, or last year to this year. But more importantly, our area scouts, the reports that they were putting in, about Carter. It's easy for me to go in there and watch him and I know him. So, but when all of a sudden, our scouts are going in, and we're talking, and they're talking about the improvement of Carter Mazur, that's something that, was obviously it was great to hear and great to see. And then, from there we put the list together, and, obviously we put Carter in a spot where he deserved it. And then as we're going through our list, it's, as we're talking with, the scouts, it was a pick that we all wanted to make. And, with Red Savage, obviously I played against his dad, tremendous family. They grew up, Red grew up in NHL dressing rooms and in hockey environment. And, Red knows what being a pro is. He has a lot of insight of going into rinks and seeing the sacrifices that his dad made throughout his career. And I believe that's exactly how Red is wired as well. So it was something, when you start looking at Carter Mazur and Red Savage, obviously I've seen, these two players, especially since, they were 9-10 years old and turn into real good NHL prospects. And, they know they have a long way to go. But they also, they also have, the passion for the game and the love for the game. And, when you talk about character, both Carter and Red have that. Carter was named captain of Tri-City, which is something, for an 18-year-old prospect is obviously a great accomplishment. And, for Red going into the U18 World Championships, he was named captain of Team USA, which I know is a huge thrill for himself. So there's a reason, why they were named that. It's the way they carry themselves. It's the way they lead by example, what they do on the ice and off the ice. And
Shai, what made him worth trading up for?
Shai was, he's 6'3", he's 210 pounds right now. We really love, he's going out to Denver. We feel he's in a great spot to continue to develop. We have Antti Tuomisto out there. Carter Mazur's going in there as well. We feel that, they do a real good job out there. And for us, I probably watched Shai early in November at Shattuck. And honestly, I didn't even, I wasn't even sure who it was. I was going in to watch a couple other prospects, and I was like, I was with Mark Mullen. I was asking Mully, who's this defenseman? And just the size and the hockey sense really stood out, for me. And obviously it was such a, strange year for so many prospects. Shattuck ended up being shut down, and then he went into Sioux City. And, all of a sudden he started playing, he was basically in third pair playing 5-on-5. And as soon as he kind of, decided to spend the rest of the year in the USHL, he started taking on more responsibility. He was able to play on the power play, able to play on the PK. He was playing in all situations. And for us, he just kept getting better. Every time we go out there, whether, it was every other week or whenever we were seeing him, he just continued to get better. So I would say that was something that was intriguing. And we're sitting there and we're looking at, our draft board. And that was one of the names that kind of popped out for us. And we felt, at the time, you just never know. You never know who's going to like another prospect. And we're sitting there and Stevie, with, having conversation, we just decided that, it was worth it to make sure that we got the player. Cause, sometimes a couple names could go off the board and then all of a sudden you lose out on them. So we were able to do that. And we feel that, we've added, another defense prospect, 6'3", good skater, smart hockey player, and really, like the improvement that we've seen. And we feel that as an organization that he's going to continue to do that. So he was, very intriguing prospect for us today.
Last one for me, just real quick with Nilsson. Could he be a sleeper? He seems very skilled and very, very confident. Dower Nilsson.
It's that was a name Hawken was pounding the table for. It's, when you look at where we're at, in the draft, it's another captain of a national team. Obviously he wore the C in Texas for the U18s. And, when that was, that kind of how I talked about Red Savage and Carter Mazer, that's how Hawken Anderson and TC describe Liam. And, I think that, that was something that was intriguing for us. And, he's a player that, we interview, probably, I don't know, over 100 prospects, and our area guys, and, they always have conversations throughout the year with them. And, as we're interviewing a lot of Swedish prospects, we always talk to the prospects, on your team and at the U18s, who would you want to take to the NHL to be a teammate? And the majority of the players on that team said, Liam, Dower, Nilsson. And that's something that just kind of stuck out with us. You're talking about another player that's, he has good hockey sense, a lot of character, a lot of compete, and it just seems like another player, that really loves the game. So that, with that, and obviously Hawken, was a big fan of his, and I've spent the last couple of years watching him. It just made sense when it was our turn to make our pick.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Next up, Ted Colfin, Detroit News.
Hey, Drapes, how important is, like you said, you kind of alluded to it. A lot of these kids are kind of character kids, accountable. Is that a characteristic, hey, you guys are definitely looking for?
For sure. I think anytime you have an opportunity to add a prospect that has been a captain, especially, we're talking about 17, 18-year-old, prospects and players, and they're being, for Carter being selected, he's playing with, 19 and 20-year-olds, and, his team and his organization, chose him as a captain. And, probably the big reason why is, he just goes out and leads by example. He's going to lay it on the line. He's going to block shots, whatever it takes, at those kind of moments, on the PK, on the power play, just a very serviceable, player, that really goes out and like I said, leads by example. So, character is something, when you think about Detroit Red Wings, it's something that, is important to us. Obviously it's important to Steve, and, we feel that we've, drafted, really good prospects, good character individuals. And I think, the names that we've touched on, a lot of these guys they're just going to do whatever they can to find ways to play. They know they have a lot of work to do. We've talked to them all already. I know Dan Cleary and Sean Horkoff and Nicholas Cronwell have reached out to all the prospects that we've drafted over the last couple of days. And, the thing that they come back with is it's a huge honor to be selected by the Detroit Red Wing organization. And that's something that means a lot to obviously all of us that have been a part of this organization for so long.
Hey, last one, how difficult was it to go through this year in terms of scouting? Was it difficult to get a handle on a lot of these kids?
Honestly, for me, Ted, I could only stay in the US. So that's really where I was going. I was going around to the USHL. I was able to see some college hockey, some rinks I could get into, some rinks I couldn't get into. Obviously was able to see a little bit of Minnesota high school, but that was really all I can do. And then up until, April, until the U18 World Championships, it was a lot of video. But the good thing, obviously, for, every organization was, that we were, that they were able to pull off the U18 World Championships in Texas, because we've been watching a lot of these prospects throughout the year on video. We've seen a lot of them in their underage year, but from watching them 2 years ago to watching them on video, and then getting those 2 weeks of watching, having some live views was something real important for us. So I think that helped us out quite a bit. The development program played pretty well a full season, so we were able to watch them play quite a bit. But it was definitely challenging. But as we kind of went through the draft and we're talking, about names, the area scouts, stepped up, and that's how, Oscar Plandowski became a Detroit Red Wing pick, talking to our Quebec scouts, Ross Yates and Corey Crocker, and Pasquale Zito out of Windsor. Just the relationships that Kelly Harper has with him, talking to his trainer, talking to people around him, talking to the Windsor Spitfires, and just trying to get as much background information as possible. That's what we want to do. And at the time, that's when we made those picks. So, it was definitely challenging. It seems like, for me, it looks like, I'll be getting back into, chasing the late 03s and the 04s. A week from now, I'm going to head over to Europe for the Gretzky Halinka in Slovakia and in the Czech Republic. And away we go. We're off to the 2022 draft. So it's amazing how fast it goes. But, I thought our staff did a great job, of watching live games when they could. And when they couldn't, they'd certainly do. We would certainly be on video, and we had a ton of calls all throughout the year, and I thought the communication was great.
Perfect. Thanks for the Stripes.
Thank you.
Next up, Ansar Khan, M Live.
Yeah, hi, Chris.
Answer.
Just with Zito not having played this year, how much does that kind of set back his development curve? And did that give you a pause at all, taking a player who hadn't played competitively, I think, since March of 2020?
Yep. You know what, Answer, it did. Obviously there was a little hesitation, but, as we were, getting late in the draft and the characteristics of Pasquale and talking to, the general manager of the Windsor Spitfires, talking to the coach, talking to strength coaches that train him. Obviously we had some underage reports on Pasquale from last year. And then in the end it was, we talk, we have communication. Obviously we had, if scouts weren't here, we had a Microsoft Teams call going, and, it just felt that, for a 6th-round pick, we wanted to step up and get him, and that's, was it hard? Yeah. I mean, obviously we haven't seen him, but, I know after, we made the selection and we talked to him, he was so excited about getting drafted, and he basically said, I'm going to do, everything I can to make it worthwhile of us obviously stepping up and picking him. And, that's obviously, pretty neat to hear. But, for us, it was about relationships that we trusted. He's, did he lose a year of hockey? Absolutely. But, we feel over the next couple of years, he's going to do everything he can on the ice and off the ice to make himself ready and turn himself, into the prospect that we want him to be.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Next up, Max Boltman with The Athletic.
Hey, Chris, one more on Zito. He says he looks up to Matthew Tkachuk. What do you see in his game?
Well, that was the type of player, on the interview that Kelly had with him. That's exactly what he talks about, and that's exactly how he wants to play. As he wants to be a hard player to play against. He wants to compete against the other players' top teams. He wants to make it tough on net front presence, and those are the kind of things that you like. So when you interview a player and all of a sudden they start talking about my favorite players are the Tkachuks, it kind of puts a little smile on your face that that's the way they want to play, and you let them know that that's not easy to do what they do every night. And, he just kind of smiled, and, I know through Kelly and the interviews that they had. And even when Kelly talked to him today, he just said, he goes, that's who I want to be. Now, we all know the Tkachuk brothers are unbelievable hockey players and, unbelievable pros in the National Hockey League. But when you have a 17, 18-year-old prospect that looks up to them and wants to play like them, puts a little smile on your face. And, he knows he has a lot of work to do. Like I said, about losing a year of hockey, and it's, I couldn't even imagine at that age not being able to play. But, like we kind of talked about last night, the opportunity, to be in the gym and get those home cooked meals and, the opportunity to get bigger and stronger, prospects took advantage of that. And that's something that, Pasquale did as well.
And then Steve mentioned you guys he thought you had Shai probably higher than maybe some others. Like, what do you guys see as his potential, Buium?
You know what? We think that we felt that we drafted, a top potential top 4 defenseman. We look, we feel he has, very good hockey sense. And, I would say, he has, he's 6'3", he's 210 pounds. He has an opportunity to frame, when all of a sudden he decides to turn pro, when he's ready to turn pro, he could easily be 225, 230 pounds. And, that's pretty intriguing for a defenseman. But I'd say, for us, when we kept going back to the rink, he just kept doing a lot of little things right. He has good poise with the puck. He's able to move the puck. He's just, when you're 6'3" and you're that strong, it just gives yourself that much of an advantage when you're defending. So I would say, we probably did have him higher than what the industry thought, but we felt, when you look around and you start seeing teams that, are successful and how they win and how they're built. Obviously they have, big D, that can defend and have hockey sense. And that's what we feel that we got.
And then last one from me, Red Savage. It sounds like you've coached against him going back a ways. What's your kind of scouting report on Red and his game?
You know what? Red was, watching him play, even at an early age, he just understood how to play the game. You could tell that he's been around the game, very responsible two-way player. I'd probably say, as a, 14, 15, 16-year-old player, he probably played, too responsible, but that's just in him. That's the way he's wired. That's the way he was brought up. That's how he understands that of how he's going to turn himself into a good pro. So, for me watching Red, he just knows how to play. He's in good spots for his D, very responsible. He's actually really good in the circle to take face-offs. Watching him in Texas, he had some big shot blocks on the penalty kill, kind of plays, a fearless type game. And you know what? He showed that, throughout this year when he got a little bit of an opportunity that, he could produce some offense. So he's going into Miami. I think the one thing that, we're certainly going to want him to work on is, he knows how to play without the puck. He's obviously very intelligent in his own end. He knows how to play in the defensive zone. The one thing that we're going to want him to work on is obviously his offensive side of the game, to score goals, challenge himself to put up numbers. It's going to be tough going into college hockey as an 18-year-old, but it's something that we're certainly going to want him to do and encourage him to do as well.
Thanks, Kris.
Thank you.
Next up, Bob Duff, Detroit Hockey Now.
Kris, you mentioned Savage, and obviously you've got a son in the prospect pipeline yourself. Given two players of equal ability, is that an intangible to have had a father who's been in the pros and kind of not only understands what it takes to get there and can relay it to their son, but their son gets to witness the sacrifice that their fathers make to get there and to keep the job? So is that kind of an intangible? When scouts talk about intangibles, is that a distinct advantage for a kid that to have kind of lived inside the bubble of this lifestyle?
You know what, Bob? I think it is. I mean, we saw, tonight, obviously, Shane Doan's son got drafted as well. And when you kind of, we always talk about our prospects about, understanding the sacrifices that you're going to have to make, understanding, we always talk to these prospects and ask them, about, who's the hardest working guy in the gym. They always say they are. Who's the hardest working guy in practice? They are, but, for us that had the opportunity, to live it for as long as we did, we understand, what it does take. And I know, that for Red, he would understand that the sacrifices that his dad had to make, throughout his career. Just, little things, not being home for birthdays, not being home for concerts, those little things when, most dads are going to be there. That's just the way of the life of a hockey player and being a hockey dad. But I think, the benefits, are tremendous, that you get to go into the rink and you get to watch, dad skate, you get to watch dad train, you get to be around, for my son, Keenan, getting to be around some of the greatest, Detroit Red Wings of all time, and just seeing what it takes. And, you want them to, take that on in their work ethic on the ice and off the ice. And, I think that, when you talk, to these players and these young prospects that have kind of grown up around the game, I think there is a maturity level to them and how they carry themselves. They meet, a lot of people. They meet superstars of the game, and they obviously have to carry themselves, the right way. And for me, I know that Red Savage does that. The conversations that I have, even, watching him when he was 14, 15 years old, you could tell that, that he was brought up in the game, and it was always Mr. Draper and what it might be, and, those kind of things. And you know what, you respect that. But I know, for players, that have sons that are in the game, the one thing that you want to give your son, is a passion and love for the game that we have, and I believe that, that's something that's, super important. And I would have to say, not speaking for them, but Brian Savage and Shane Doan probably did the exact same thing for their sons as well. And I'm sure that's probably the most that they're proud of, is that they love the game and the passion that they have for the game, and to be able to hand that down to your sons is something that is pretty special. So I would say that, for, some of the prospects whose dads have been around the game, and they see the game, and they probably understand, the sacrifices a little bit more, because, they were a part of our sacrifices as we continued to play in the National Hockey League and continued, to chase our dream year in and year out.
Okay, thanks.
Next up, Carly Johnston, Red Wings TV.
Hey, Draves, how you doing?
Good, Carly. How are you?
Good. Thank you. All right. I want to ask you about Frolunda. I mean, they must be breeding some elite players. You guys really seem to like them. You picked quite a few prospects out of there. Is it just a coincidence, or is Frolunda really making that great of hockey players?
I mean, they run an amazing program from, the youth hockey all the way up. And it's a program that, we in an area that obviously we spend a lot of time in. Both Håkan Anderson and Thomas Carlson are so close to Gothenburg, and certainly Nicholas Cronwell as well, the relationships that he has with them. But it's just, it's just interesting of how our list goes. We certainly don't highlight a prospect from Frolunda. But as we're kind of sitting there and we're debating, these guys are, they're coached the right way. They're brought up the right way. They're taught how to play the game. And, they've had so much success, at the youth level as a program, and certainly at the pro level as well. So, to be honest, Carly, it's just, you kind of sit there and as a name's coming up and you're sitting there and it's like, well, here's another one. And where does he play? And he plays in Frolunda, and, he ends up, being selected by the Detroit Red Wings. So to be honest with you, it really is a coincidence. And, it's just kind of how, for myself over the last couple of years doing our list, it's just kind of how it's fallen.
Hey, it seems to be working, but we have a lot of prospects playing in the Junior Summer Showcase here in Plymouth. Are you looking forward to watching some of your picks and seeing some other prospects that you haven't been able to see play live?
I am. Yes. I know Pat Verbeek, Sean Horkoff, and Dan Cleary kind of left a little bit early to go over and watch some prospects. And obviously there's 2 games tomorrow. So, we will certainly be making our way over there to watch our prospects. We were actually trying to get a hold of a couple of them today, and they were on the ice practicing, so we weren't able to right away. But I know, that it's an honor to be selected for these showcases for your country, and obviously on a day like this to not only be wearing the jersey of your country, and then all of a sudden to be able to hear your name being drafted by the Detroit Red Wings is obviously something special. So for them, this just ends up being, you know, a great week. It's something that they won't forget. Obviously very unique, because obviously usually we're, except for the last couple of years, we're in a rink and we're meeting the prospects right away and meeting their families right away. But you know, the last couple of years we weren't able to do it. But I can tell you right now, everyone who heard their name called today, they're going to remember exactly where they were when they got the news that they've been drafted by an NHL team.
For sure. Thanks so much, Drapes.
Thank you.
Our last question, Art Regner, DetroitRedWings.com.
Hi, Kris.
Uh-oh. Art's last.
Well,
right.
because I have like 17 questions. So let's hopefully you have a cup of coffee. So it's been a long day. I guess my first question is this. Steve said something interesting a couple of days ago about metrics, and that maybe hockey is still in the phase of figuring out which metrics really mean something and which maybe are less. But this year, because you guys were landlocked to the countries you were in, did you rely on metrics more because the good old-fashioned in-person eye test, you really couldn't see a lot of these guys in person? So was metrics more prevalent, I guess, in this year's drafting than it has been in the past?
You know what, I would say probably over the last couple of years, you know, for me, this is, like I said, the second year, you know, I've been running the draft, and, you know, there's a lot of times where you do throw up analytical comparisons of prospects. And, you know, for me, it really just creates dialogue. You know, I think it's something that, you know, you for the most part, you go into the rink, it's the eye test. You know, and then from there, you kind of try to follow it up with, you know, are you going to do some more video, or are you going to start, you know, doing some, you know, analytic comparisons? And, you know, that's something that's, you know, been intriguing for me. You know, and so I would say, you know, overall, you know, for the area scouts that were able to go into the rinks that they were able to go into, you go into the rink, you watch the game, but then we also had a lot of conversations. I would say, you know, this year more than ever, because of the fact that I couldn't get into different countries and see, you know, prospects in other countries and other areas, that, you know, we had a lot of calls. So I would say that the communication was very good. You know, I believe in the analytics side of the game and the analytics side of scouting. And to me, it's interesting when you go watch a prospect and then, you know, analytically, you want to compare what you saw to what the data says as well.
When I talking to Carter earlier today, he said that he was more comfortable talking to you. Obviously, you're his coach, and you said you've known him since he was a little boy, than talking to other teams. But from your perspective, when you know someone that well, is it more difficult for you because you're asking, I don't know if they're hard questions, but questions where you're kind of deciding the kid's future, whether he might be drafted by the Red Wings or not?
You know what? Carter is, you know, he's intelligent young man, and it's been like I said, it's been fun to watch him grow up. And you know, he I believe at the time when we asked him, and we always write this down, you know, how many interviews have you done? And you know, he was in the mid to high 20s in the interviews that he was a part of. And you know, for me, you know, it's usually when you're at the combine, you know, you get 20 to 25 minutes to spend with a prospect, you know, but we're doing it on, you know, these team calls. You can be on the phone for 30 minutes, 40, 45 minutes, you know, whatever it might be. And, you know, I think you're able to get a little bit more out of them. And certainly, you know, for me, it was, you know, I wanted to ask the right questions so the staff could see the side of Carter Mazur that I already knew. You know, and I thought he handled, you know, the interview, you know, very well. Ryan Rozmierski tried to throw a little curveball at him and asked him who was the best coach that he ever had. And I'm here to say that Carter said the right name. So that was good for Carter. But, you know, I'm lucky, you know, for the 02 group and, you know, the 03 group, you know, being able to coach my son all the way up and in that, you know, in that birth year, I was able to see a lot of prospects kind of go out and play and watch them develop. So, you know, for me, it's the interview process is an opportunity to really get to know the prospect. And there's some that, you know, we're going to follow up with more than others. And, you know, Carter's a guy that, you know, we had a great interview with, but throughout the year, you know, our area scouts had some good meetings with him as well. And it's something, you know, that's important. I knew Carter, I knew his family, I knew where he grew up in Jackson and everything, you know, about him. And, you know, for me, I wanted I wanted our USA scouts, our area scouts in the US, I wanted them, to really like Carter Mazur and push for Carter Mazur. And then it makes sense for me as well. And that's exactly how it happened.
I know that this is your second year running the draft as the director of amateur scouting. I know you've been part of Red Wing drafts in the past, so you have been down on the floor in that environment. Are you looking forward to getting back, hopefully, to Montreal next year where everybody is together? Or do you think that this draft appeared to be, even though it was still virtual, almost normal? A lot of trades, a lot of talk, or is that because everybody was just used to this process now?
I'd probably say a little bit of both. I'd probably say that, for, most of the general managers, it probably felt right, for the situation that their players were in, that they needed to make some trades. I guess that would be, the answer for that of why, there were a lot of big trades and obviously a lot of big names that moved. And kind of as we went through the draft, there was, some teams trying to trade up. We did that. Teams trying to trade back as well and try to get more picks. And so I would say, yeah, but, I would say, for the draft, it's, you want to get back to normal. And it seems like everything's going to shape up for 2022, to be in Montreal and have an in-person draft again. And, that's something that, everybody looks forward to. And especially the prospects, being able, especially, iconic city like Montreal and going into the Bell Center with the history of that arena and just kind of looking up and seeing the jerseys and the banners. It's going to be, an epic moment for all these young prospects to go in there, and really, to hear their name being called and being drafted is a dream come true for all these kids going forward to next year. So I'm looking forward to it. Was this, I thought, last year, for my first draft and everything that was going on and Stevie not, kind of, being there right beside me and looking up and having a talk on the screen. It was, this year was a lot easier, just having Stevie there, just the conversations that we were able to have, it's just very fortunate to be able to look over to my right and have conversations with Steve Yzerman and discuss the players that we want to take and why we want to take them. And for me, it's, obviously a great opportunity to be able to do that, but certainly looking forward to getting, on the road and seeing all these players live and traveling and kind of going about and doing my job back to, the normal fashion before, everything was shut down due to this pandemic.
Kris, my final question, and I promise this is the final question, hopefully. When I break down the 8 players here, 2 left-handed shooting defensemen, 3 centers, although 2 of them are listed as centers left wings, 1 right wing, 1 right-handed shooting defenseman, and 1 goaltender. I know that you best player available and all this, but is that a good mix? Is, going into the draft, if you would have known this is how it would have turned out, are you happy? Are you satisfied that, you've covered all your basic needs and got a lot of talented kids?
Yeah, I think, when you're sitting there and you're looking at the prospect pool and kind of seeing, positional of where, we were at and where we needed to go, I think we were able to do that. It was something, down the middle, we discussed that. And as you're sitting there and you're looking at prospects and, the importance of obviously defense, we talked about that last night. Trying to get some centers is something that, has been talked about over the last couple of years. And, we're able to do that this year. But, in the end, when you're sitting there and you're discussing, we want to announce the players and make the selections for, who we feel are going to be the best prospect that we can bring in, the best future Detroit Red Wing that we can bring in. And in the end, that's why we end up making the selections that we did. And, like you said, it just kind of worked out that way for us this year. So, you know what, as we always say, we'll see how it is. We feel good about today. We feel that we drafted in a lot of areas that we needed to draft in. You talk about, the character of the prospects that we brought in, the talent of the prospects that we brought in. And now it's, they all know that the work starts now. And that's something that, is really true. Once their name's selected and they're, part of an organization, away they go. And even for some prospects, that didn't get their name called, these guys can, still work and still believe in themselves and still chase their dream. And I just go back to, Barclay Goudreau from Tampa Bay, just wasn't drafted, just won back-to-back Stanley Cups and just went on to sign a 6-year deal with the New York Rangers. So for all the players that were drafted, it's obviously a great accomplishment, but for all the players that, weren't drafted tonight, that doesn't mean anything. It just means you keep working hard and you keep chasing that dream and you have the passion for the game. And like a player like Barclay Goodrow, you just never know.
Those are all the questions we have for today. Thanks everyone for joining us. Drapes, thanks for your time.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.